Welcome back to What the Fact. I'm Katie and this is Erin. Now we're 50 days out from the 2018 elections. PolitiFact has you covered by analyzing claims that are going around in the most competitive districts around the country.
And it's a lot of fun, and this week we're going to a suburban Cincinnati district, a very competitive district in Ohio that has really been solidly Republican in recent years. The incumbent there is U.S. Rep. Steve Chabot. He's represented the district since 2011. He's seeking another term in a district that, quite frankly, has been safely Republican. This is a district that in 2016, Chabot won by 19 percentage points. It's also a district that Donald Trump carried by 6.6 percentage points in 2016. But Democrats seeing a wave, handicappers think this is a true toss-up. The local clerk of the court, Aftab Purival, is mounting a really aggressive challenge to Chabot in a race that everyone sees as a true toss-up.
Exactly. That makes it a very key race that we're tracking. And we have two claims this week to walk through, one from each candidate. We're going to start with the Democratic challenger, Aftab Purival. He claimed in a recent ad on TV,
Steve Chabot, a career politician who voted to strip away protections from people with pre-existing conditions.
Now this is a familiar refrain that we're hearing from Democrats around the country, but this one is really interesting. It's an interesting situation, and we wondered, is it really true? So let's find out.
In a tight race for Ohio's 1st congressional district, the talk has turned to healthcare. Democrat Aftab Purival is trying to unseat incumbent Republican Steve Chabot. He's recently released an ad attacking Chabot's healthcare record.
If they take away the pre-existing condition protections, you're punishing a childhood cancer survivor for surviving cancer. That's pretty disgusting.
Chabot's vote to take healthcare away from 35,000 people in our district, his vote to increase premiums on people over 50, he's done nothing to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I think we can do better.
Let's home in on this claim that Steve Chabot voted to take away healthcare coverage protections for people with pre-existing conditions. He did, but he's always talked about the importance of offering a replacement program that would include that protection. Chabot's team defends his votes for bills that stripped protections without a backup this way. They say the bills were intended to send a message to then-President Obama and didn't actually have a chance of passing. So Steve Chabot has talked about creating a provision to protect people with pre-existing conditions should the Affordable Care Act ever be repealed. But he still voted to take away those protections without replacements in place or planned.
Okay, Katie, so the claim here is that Chabot voted to strip insurance protections for pre-existing conditions. How'd that rate on PolitiFact's Truthometer?
We rated this claim mostly true. That means the statement is accurate, but it requires additional information that people need to know.
Well, give it to them.
Okay, so what I found most interesting here was actually Chabot's response, his reason. So he told us, yes, of course I voted for those Obamacare repeal bills, but I did not, and they did include protections for pre-existing conditions, right? But he said everybody knew, because President Barack Obama was in power, that those bills had no chance of getting to his desk or surviving his desk, right, even if they passed the Senate. So votes like this, you have to go back in time, they were part of a legislative strategy. They sent a clear message, but Steve Chabot is telling us he knew that it wasn't really going to happen. So is that really good enough of an excuse? We kind of say, or Aftab Purival says not really,
right.
You know, actions speak louder than words. And the fact is they voted for this repeal bill without actual legislation behind it that would have secured conditions for people with protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
We're not here to judge whether you should actually take your legislators' votes seriously or more rhetorically, but we can say that Congress is elected to make laws, and in this case, Chabot cast some votes that clearly would have repealed the ACA, aka Obamacare, and essentially rolled back the protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Let's do another one. Let's switch sides.
All right.
What is Chabot talking about?
Chabot is talking about Hamilton County finances and Purival's home, kind of performance on his home turf.
Yep. Chabot is cited in a new ad, a projected $400,000 deficit in Purival's current office as the Hamilton County Clerk of Court. Now, that's obviously not good, a $400,000 projected deficit, but it's even worse, Chabot says, because basically it's an office that had a long history of running surpluses. So the attack is basically Purival came in and turned surpluses into deficits. We'll start with the main claim about the $400,000 projected deficit. That claim is false. That's just incorrect. As you break it down, was there a projected deficit? Sort of. Basically, in Hamilton County budget documents, the clerk of the courts projected in its general fund a budget deficit of about, actually closer to $500,000 than $400,000. The importance here is that the Hamilton County general budget is only part of what the clerk's office ultimately receives and spends. 1. 2, it's important to know how the Hamilton County Clerk's Office is funded. It's funded by fines, but really the most important thing here is looking at why that projected budget deficit took place. And so basically, FTAP Puraval wanted to create new clerk of the court kind of filing centers, mainly dealing with kind of vehicle registrations. And he wanted to put them out on the edges of the county so that the county could get the benefits of people registering their car in Hamilton County versus some other county. And so he wanted to put some of the resources of the clerk's office, some of the money, into kind of building out those places. He thought, and the thought would be, by spending the money now, you'll make more money in the long run. Okay? So that's where the projected budget deficit comes to. However, there's a twist.
Did the numbers come in as they were expected?
No, then this is the twist, is that basically Puraval was able to go through with his plan in a way that he says will not cost as much money, basically. And so he will be able to, this year, take what was projected as a deficit. And by the way, this is really important. The county budget guy in Hamilton County says, this is all nonsense. It's really not a deficit. You shouldn't count it as a deficit. So that's a factor, but he's basically been able to kind of redo the books in a way that the deficit will end up being a surplus, he says.
We're going to continue looking at claims big and small, national and local, throughout the next few weeks as we inch closer to Election Day. Until next week, I'm Katie, this is Erin. Thanks so much for watching What the Fact.